So I'm your presenter today. My name is Soumya Maradona Ghosh. I started playing music when I was 5, started playing professionally. That's, accepting money for my music services at 15, started touring at 15 as well. I started teaching at 17 when two boys who were older than me came to one of my performances and said, I want to play the guitar just like you. Could you teach me? And I said, I've never taught before, but I'll try. And so that's when I started teaching and developed a passion for teaching. So in the course of my life, I've taught International Baccalaureate, IB. I've taught GCSE, IGCSE, as well as British GCSE currently, Trinity, Rockschool, ABRSM. I've taught a lot of children of known personalities. I've taught Madhuri Dixit's kids, Akshay Kumar's son. I've taught Shan's kid, so on and so forth. I have Karishma Kapoor's daughter, so on and so forth. Performed and recorded in several projects with Bappida, with Preetham, with Shan, Ushotup. I've done 7 international tours so far, and I'm going for one more in the following week. I've composed and performed for films. I've recently done my MA in music therapy from Cambridge. That's a Cambridge Institute of Music Therapy Research in the UK. I've done some work with special needs children, and I've worked in a forensic psychiatric ward at NHS London. And I've co-founded Crossroads Mumbai and Crossroads London quite recently, just a few years ago. All right, so let's get down to business. Why does anyone learn music? I'm going to open up to the audience. I'm going to ask you this question. Why would you want to learn music? Answers are welcome. I can see some teachers have also signed up. Why learn music? Feel free to unmute and ask or raise a hand. No one? Okay. All right, so let me give you a few answers for that. So number 1 is learning music enhances brain function, memory, focus, creativity. I'm going to take you through one little video which might offer you an insight into the benefits which music learning might provide for you.
Did you know that every time musicians pick up their instruments, there are fireworks going off all over their brain? On the outside, they may look calm and focused, reading the music and making the precise and practiced movements required. But inside their brain,
Is everything all right? Let's continue on with the video.
there's a party going on. How do we know this? Well, in the last few decades, neuroscientists have made enormous breakthroughs in understanding how our brains work by monitoring them in real time with instruments like fMRI and PET scanners. When people are hooked up to these machines, tasks such as reading or doing math problems each have corresponding areas of the brain where activity can be observed. But when researchers got the participants to listen to music, they saw fireworks. Multiple areas of their brains were lighting up at once as they processed the sound, took it apart to understand elements like melody and rhythm, and then put it all back together into unified musical experience. And our brains do all this work in the split second between when we first hear the music and when our foot starts to tap along. But when scientists turn from observing the brains of music listeners to those of musicians, the little backyard fireworks became a jubilee. It turns out that while listening to music engages the brain in some pretty interesting activities, playing music is the brain's equivalent of a full-body workout. The neuroscientists saw multiple areas of the brain light up, simultaneously processing different information in intricate, interrelated, and astonishingly fast sequences. But what is it about making music that sets the brain alight? The research is still fairly new, but neuroscientists have a pretty good idea. Playing a musical instrument engages practically every area of the brain at once, especially the visual, auditory, and motor cortices. And as with any other workout, disciplined, structured practice in playing music strengthens those brain functions, allowing us to apply that strength to other activities. The most obvious difference between listening to music and playing it is that the latter requires fine motor skills, which are controlled in both hemispheres of the brain. It also combines the linguistic and mathematical precision in which the left hemisphere is more involved with the novel and creative content that the right excels in. For these reasons, playing music has been found to increase the volume and activity in the brain's corpus callosum, the bridge between the two hemispheres, allowing messages to get across the brain faster and through more diverse routes.
So I will stop the video there, but however, it's a message to all the parents who say, like, I want my child to focus on math and science and languages, because it's scientifically proven with multiple studies that learning music or playing a musical instrument actually helps you get better at math and science. So if you want your kid doing better at academic subjects in school, make them learn music. Okay, and it's the same message in Britain as well, because in the British curriculum also there's been a major cut of funding across music and art subjects, because they want to they want their children to focus on science and art, science and math and so on and so forth. But it's the same plea from musicians that if you want your kid doing well in school, music is quite helpful. All right, back to our presentation then. Let's see if I can. All right, so I'm going to, at the end of today's meeting, I'm going to send you some of the links to the videos that I've used and some of the resources and some of the research papers that I've used to create this presentation. Okay, moving on. So another reason to learn music is it builds emotional intelligence and confidence. So here I'd like to talk to you about a personal story of mine. I come from a family of doctors, like my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, they were all doctors. So my father studied in London and in Dublin, Ireland. And before that, my grandfather studied in Edinburgh in mostly maternity medical sciences. So they built a hospital. My grandfather built a hospital. So I was primed to become a doctor. I had all the opportunities. I came from a family of doctors. But the thing is, I never felt like I belonged in the medical profession per se. And to be absolutely frank, I didn't feel that I had the tenacity or the academic. I could handle the academic rigor of becoming a doctor. I didn't think I had the patience to study that much. But I found my individuality, my purpose and meaning of life in music. So when I was about 13, I got together with a band. So that's me in the band. By the way, I'm second from the left. There's a guy hiding behind my right shoulder there. So that's me holding the guitar here. So that's me when I found a real purpose in life, because it gave me a lot of confidence. So because before this, I couldn't find my individuality. I was not interested much in medical science or the kind of biological background which my family members had. I also struggled socially. I had a stutter, and I just suffered from low confidence in general. So music really gave me meaning. It gave me a purpose, and it helped me make new friends. It even gave me courage to ask a girl out. So yeah, it's something which really, really helped out my life, and it built the person that I am today. And I hope you find the same while doing music. So playing with other musicians, it builds skills like, say, leadership, collaboration, builds social skills. It teaches you how to be disciplined, and it teaches you patience. Because as you saw from the video, that music makes your brain work very hard. Music is hard work. There's reading, there's processing, there's interpretation involved, and that takes not just practice, but it's something which takes time. You develop that skill over time, because it's so different from today's world, where you have, say, stuff on Instagram and Facebook and social media and the like. You get immediate dopamine hits, but in order to get that little bit of the reward hormone, you need to work so hard and so much. It's like going to the gym. You cannot expect instant results. No one goes to the gym and immediately gets instant results. Oh, thank you, Hargavi. Right. So, so going to the gym means that you have to go to the gym consistently and over time for a long period of time before you see any results. No one starts looking good or starts feeling healthy in just a week or 2 weeks. You have to go to the gym for 12 weeks consistently before you start seeing results. So building resilience and building character, you start transferring that discipline to other aspects of your life. If you're creating, if you're making a movie or you're writing a book, something which requires a long-term investment of time, because there's no such thing as overnight success. We just see the success the next day, but ask anyone who's got overnight success, they'll say that there have been years which went behind that. Most importantly, we learn music because it is fun. I think the most fun thing I could do, which I have ever done, is play music. And I hope it's the same for some of you or some of your children. So I'm going to, again, anything that I say today has been backed up by research and study. I will send the papers to you after our talk today, but it has been proven that the impact of excessive screen time, which the children and adults of today are subject to, has a negative effect on speech and language development. So there are lots and lots of children nowadays who do not start speaking before the age of 4. And it's a new thing, because if you ask your grandparents and previous generations, it's never been like this. And it's because children start developing a relationship with their screens rather than developing a relationship with their humans, with their mums and dads and the other human beings around. It has also proven to have a negative effect on physical and mental health. It has a detrimental effect on your sleep. And I think we are learning more and more about how important sleep is to your physical and mental health, and behavioral issues. If you speak to classroom teachers, they'll say behavior has gotten a lot more challenging than it's ever been. Children are crankier, they have lower attention spans, and it's all related somehow or another to more screen time. I remember when I had somewhere in my early 20s, when I used to teach, one mummy told me that, look, my son, who's 2.5 years old, he plays Angry Birds on his iPad, he's so bright. But now we have all seen that, and we all know that somewhere that excessive screen time and use of devices actually it's not very good for you. Because what generally happens, if any of you have got a background in psychology and you know a bit about attachment theory, your child starts developing an attachment with the device rather than developing an attachment with human beings, leading to all kinds of problems. Now, music can be an antidote to digital overload. So if someone spends time with their piano, with their guitar, with their drum kit, or just plain old sitting and listening to music, when was the last time you've seen a kid doing that, just sitting and listen? Because we used to listen to the radio all the time. Sorry, I'm beginning to sound like, okay, I'm like, oh, you young ones nowadays. But it is true. I don't see like just pure music listening time, just getting lost in the music and just kind of listening for listening's sake. So playing an instrument teaches you how to kind of focus on one particular goal, that okay, I need to get through this practice session today, or I need to practice this piece at least 10 times before I can take a break because my teacher asked me to. So where technology trains instant gratification, because I think it started, there was a game called Candy Crush. It was so annoying. You get instant dopamine hits with those candies bursting all across the screen. That is one end of the spectrum where your brain is given that instant dopamine rushes, dopamine hits. And the other thing, on the other side, you've got like music, which takes training and discipline. I think there was one TED talk which I heard where someone compared giving your child a device to giving your child drugs to keep in their to literally give drugs to keep in their pocket, because it gives the same kind of dopamine hits and the same hormones are released. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. Music cultivates delayed rewards. I have already spoken about this. It takes many cumulative hours for a child to get one piano piece right or one guitar piece right, and that is kind of, again, same thing which builds resilience and character. Okay, so coming to the next part of our presentation, I think I'm doing all right for time, but I'm going to get through this. So a question for all the for all the attendees here: did human beings invent music? If you have an answer for me, please go ahead, unmute your mic and reply.
No, I think it was there always, and humans came after.
Correct. Absolutely. I'd say music is a universal force because sound and vibrations exist in nature. So this is a humbling perspective. So we have electricity in our homes, but it does not mean that we own electricity. Electricity is a force of nature. If you see, like, we don't control lightning. We have fire in our homes, we cook food with it. We don't control fire, otherwise we wouldn't have had the recent spurt of forest fires everywhere around the world due to global warming. So similarly, just like wind or fire or lava, these are forces of nature, and we have just learned to kind of harness it, but we are not in control, and we definitely did not invent it. Because if you go around nature, if you appreciate nature around, you'll see that there are many animals who sing and they use sounds for different stuff, like for expressing anger, for expressing that this is my territory, or as mating calls, whatever. But dolphins, whales, birds, they have all used music of some sort or another to communicate. So this is something which I got from AI. So this is nature's symphony and the human channeling the music around it. So I wrote an article about this in, I don't know, when I was in college. It's called Brooks and Bands and Garbage Cans. I'm again going to send you a link to this article in case you're interested in reading. Look at my hair. My hair looked so nice then. But yeah, it was something which I wrote about, like nature and animals and so on and so forth. So yeah, I'm going to send this across. So again, music belongs to the universe. It doesn't belong to us, although we have made some really nice stuff with this force of nature. Music is so new, and okay, human beings have been around for a few 100,000 years, but the 12-note system that we use today has been around for basically 400 years, believe it or not. It's very new. We're going to watch maybe 2 minutes of this next video where they talk about how the 12 notes came to be, and it'll give the parents who are, say, if there are non-musicians or students, parents who have not studied music before, perhaps it'll give you an idea of how the 12-note system works. Enjoy.
In typical Western music, we write all of our music using only 12 unique notes: C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, and B. Of course, on an instrument like the piano, we have far more than 12 keys to play. But each of these keys is just a different version of one of those 12 unique pitch classes. However, like I explored in my previous video on microtonality, there are actually more than 12 unique pitch classes that we could choose from. Notes like C half sharp, or C half flat. In fact, pitch is a spectrum with arguably an infinite amount of different notes available. So why do we only use these 12? Well, the first thing to bear in mind here is that these notes weren't selected for their particular frequencies. The frequencies themselves aren't actually the important thing when it comes to making music. For example, we could sharpen all of these pitches, and as long as we sharpen them all by the same amount, the piano will still sound just as harmonious as usual.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the video there, but I will also send you a link so you... Okay, I'll have to send it after the meeting, so sorry, but I will definitely send it across. But it's basically a humbling thing to note that even Indian instruments like the harmonium, which uses the 12-note system, it's quite new. It's not, this is a well-tempered or an equal temperament system. Amongst musician circles, it's considered to be taming of a huge natural force, like taming lava. So recently I went to Iceland, where they have a lava show where they kind of superheat hot ashes which were collected like hundreds of years ago, and if they're superheated, it turns back into lava. But it's really playing with the force of nature and taming a force of nature, just like taming water to get hydroelectric power. Okay, our next bit, we'll talk a little bit about music exams, because I think this is something which a lot of you have expressed some curiosity about and have asked about what are music exams about and so forth. So this is our student. She looks absolutely delighted to have received her Trinity College London certificate. So let's talk about Trinity ABRSM. It stands for Associated Board of the Royal Schools of Music UK. Rockschool. There are other ones like London College of Music. These are exam boards, just like GCSE. IB is an exam board. In India, you've got the ICSE exam board, the CBSE exam board. So similarly, Trinity ABRSM Rockschool are exam boards. They comprise of experts who give qualifications. They say like, okay, according to the music that you are playing and the knowledge that you have, I now pronounce you to be equivalent of a grade 2 musician. So these are people who give out certifications and qualifications. So what can they be used for? So this can be used for musical professions. Like, okay, what's your qualification? You're saying you're a musician, so what proof do you have? So this can be used as your certificate, just like a doctor might use their certificate to prove that, yeah, I've trained in the medical profession. These certificates can be proven that you have had musical training and that you have certain knowledge about music. Grade 6 onwards, students acquire UCAS points, which contribute towards their credits for university admission. So grade 6 onwards, you get official UCAS points, which can be used in university admissions everywhere around the world. So generally, as a rule of thumb, when this is a truth, and you need to kind of this can be a goal which you might look forward to. Usually, when a student is about to graduate their high school, they should be at grade 6 minimum. That way they are getting the UCAS point for it. Okay. Now this is not limited to music courses. What if someone wants to be, an engineer? Does a music certificate help? Now, if you put yourself in the shoes of someone who is admitting students for their college, say you are head of admissions, you have candidate A who's done well in their academics, potential engineer. You've got candidate B who's also done well in the academics but also plays the guitar. You would want candidate B because that person will contribute to the ethos of your university or to your college, because you're not only getting a good student, but you're also getting a musician who will sing for your university, who will play music for your university, build a music program, build an arts program, or contribute to the arts program of your school and your university. Okay. What do they assess? So generally, generally there are two big things which any exam board will assess. Number one is your performance, how good you are at performing songs. That's why all music exams will have a performing element. Another thing is technique. How good is your technique at your instrument, or how good your technique is at singing. Besides these two, there are other skills like sight reading, improvisation, ear training, music theory, so on and so forth. Okay. Pros and cons of certificates. So, does anyone want to kind of speak a little bit about any other advantages that getting music certificates might have, or any disadvantages that you can see?
I think having the certificate boosts their confidence a lot. They're able to, you know, uh, tell about themselves with their peers. And it certainly helped with the academic progress too. We did observe that in our kid.
Wow.
Yeah, the way she feels when she achieves something in music, right? So that certainly helps uh, her prepare for the academics also very well, because she's in a good mood. And I think it goes a long way in helping and shaping up their confidence.
Brilliant. So this is firsthand from a parent of a child who learns at Crossroads. So thank you for that, Bhargavi. So Bhargavi's daughter has been learning music with us since the start of the pandemic for the last 5 years. So Bhargavi and her daughter, they live in the US, and as you just heard, she's just mentioned that it has helped her child build confidence, and it has helped in like socializing and building a presence in her social circle. So there are several pros. So it helps you. This sheet of paper that this child is holding, it kind of gives you a vindication that my hard work is recognized, and it's recognized the world over. She can use the certificate to help her university and college admissions. It can help her throughout her life. Okay. It'll help her kind of get jobs and get students of her own. Does anyone want to point out any disadvantages of studying towards certificates or studying towards exams?
Um,
Yeah.
Again, me. so,
Yes, yes.
so
Go ahead.
yeah. One thing for sure is if they don't do enough practice, it'll be seemingly overwhelming by the time they want to write the exams. And they also keep having exams at school, and these two collide, building a little pressure. So that's another observation that we had, that they need to be streamlined with their practice, so that when the time for the exam comes up, they're not very overwhelmed about it.
Absolutely correct. So Bhargavi, again, you're absolutely right. I've seen so many children suffer from burnout, and and certain kids have even come out and said, this is just way too much pressure. I can't do this. I'm and I've this at least one example of a child who I remember was doing really well in school, doing really well in music. Her parents kept putting one thing on top of another. She was doing dance, she was doing art, she was doing math Olympiad, and at some point of time, I could feel her absolutely crack, and she started doing rubbish in everything. So she went from an A star student to becoming a D student at everything. Because she just went like, okay, I'm not going to do anything. That's enough. So that kind of burnout is something which needs to be avoided, and exams put you at the risk of suffering from this burnout, especially from parents who might expect too much from their children. So that's one. And another thing which is a con for examinations is a lot of students, they study purely to pass the exam, but not for learning. The philosophy of why you're learning music in the first place gets lost. In Finland, again, there is a lovely article which I was reading this morning when I was preparing for this lesson. In Finland, they don't have standardized tests. They have assessments, but there are no standardized tests. I think there are one test at the end of your school life called the matriculation exam. But besides that, they have no standardized tests. And guess what? They produce some of the brightest minds, because the child who's going to school, they know that I'm going to school to learn. I'm not going to school to pass an exam. I'm going to school to become a more productive, contributing member of the community. So that is something which you can take out from this. And also we at Crossroads, we say that we are not an exam-based school. We are not an exam factory. We teach music, and the exams and the certificates and the certificates, they're just stuff which come along your way, and the exam should be assimilated as like, okay, so I'm just going to give this exam and get a certificate. It shouldn't be like I'm going to study towards grade 3 vocals. That's not the aim. The aim is to kind of have a good time playing music. Just like the aim of playing football is not to get through the state team, but it's to have fun with your friends. So that element of music should not be lost. Okay, so if there are children on this workshop, I think the age rating for the movie Whiplash is about 15. If you have watched Whiplash, great. You can see what music training can look like at an undergraduate degree. But it also kind of, at the end of the movie, it shows that the true, I'm not going to give any more spoilers, but you must watch Whiplash if you haven't. It is about a music teacher and a music student, and all the pressures that go through it, and how the meaning of learning music kind of mutates over time for our protagonist. By the way, about certifications, do exams measure true ability? A.R. Rahman was a student, he was doing his Trinity grades, and at some point of time, I think after his licentiate degree, he said, no, I'm too busy kind of making music for movies and stuff, so I'm just going to drop off from here. But after he won the Oscar award for Slumdog Millionaire, Trinity College London got back in touch with A.R. Rahman and said, we'd like to offer you an honorary fellowship diploma. Okay, so yeah, it does measure your ability to a certain extent, but it's not the be all and end all. Now this most of our students are aware of, but this is mainly for the student, mainly for the parents, sorry. What are music exams made of? What are the expectations from a music student? So one thing is musical script. So this is staff notation. This is Few Release, one of the most popular songs played on the piano. So staff notation is basically 5 lines on four spaces. So the reason musical script exists is because recording technology did not exist. Music at some point of time was like folk tales. Like if you tell a story to your child, and that child grows up, has children of their own, and they tell the same story to their children, and those children to their children, That's how folk stories would pass from generation to generation. Music, for most part of history, has been like folk tales. Folk music are usually is passed down through what we call oral tradition. That is, your great grandfather sang a tune to your grandfather sang that same tune to your father, and your father sang the same tune to you. Now, there is a little bit of a problem here if it's passed on from generation to generation or from year to year. Maybe in the same generation, someone sings a song to an audience, and the member of that audience sings it to another member of audience. What happens is the Chinese whisper effect, where every time the music is passed from one person from one ear to another, the music changes. So there had to be a way by which the music could be recorded. This is before music technology exists. Now today you have your cell phone on, you can just put it on, sing a tune that you just created. That technology did not exist when I was a kid, and it definitely did not exist when my father was a kid. So musical script existed as a part of music recording. How to record music. If we did not have musical script, we could not have pieces like Fur-Elise. If you see, Beethoven was born in 1770, died 1827. He did not have an iPhone to record his piano tune. He did not have the digital audio workstations we have, the microphones that we have. So he would record music by writing it down. That was the whole point of having stop notation. But being able to read music is considered to be a part of a literate musician's journey. So musical literacy is also associated with being the ability to read music. So at Crossroads, we do encourage reading music. Having said that, Taylor Swift, one of the most popular musicians in the world today, does not know how to read music. In fact, there is a little list. Hold on, let me see if I can take you through this. Oh, come on. Right. There we go. So this is the article again, as mentioned. I promise you I will send these links out to you. So there are legendary musicians who have made it so far without learning to read music. Topping the list is Jimi Hendrix, didn't know how to read music. Stevie Wonder, he was blind, so obviously didn't know how to read music. Hans Zimmer, who composed the music for Interstellar and many other movies that you've enjoyed, so he did not know how to read music. I think Mr. Ashish is a part of this meeting, so you can see Guthrie Govan playing in the backdrop there. Danny Elfman made the music for Edward Scissorhands, Batman, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, didn't know how to read music. Taylor Swift, as mentioned, does not know how to read music. Bob Dylan didn't know how to read music. Aretha Franklin, the Beatles, the greatest band of all time, they were not, quote unquote, musically literate. So I will let you decide how important it is or how unimportant it is to be able to read music. Okay. Again, at Crossroads, we do encourage reading music because another thing is, if someone wants to study music at university level, a lot of colleges and universities, they make it a staple that you need to know how to read music to get admission. So it's not the easiest thing to do. Most students don't enjoy reading music, but it's something which we try and nudge. Please read a bit, just once a month at least. Come on, let's encourage our students to read a bit of music. Next bit, improvisation. So improvisation is you make music on the spot using your voice, musical instruments, or everyday objects. This is from BBC Bite Size. If you have ever, this is something which I would do with my friends. If you sat around a table, playing the table, so I think we all did this as children with our siblings or with our friends. We would sit on the table and we would bang the table or play the forks together, or kind of play like the fork against glasses and so forth. and you try and make music around the dinner table while your parents would look angrily at you like, stop that right now. If you did that, you've made a musical improvisation. You've created a makeshift band and you're playing music. That is improvisation. Believe it or not, it is a part of your music course, because creating music, because after all, it is being creative. It is an art form. So improvisation is not only encouraged, it is also a part of your musical learning. It's there right from initial grade. Composing is basically structured improvisation. So instead of improvising there and then, if you compose music, you're kind of writing down what exactly you're improvising, and it becomes structured musical ideas. So improvisation is taught as a part of our courses, especially rock and pop. It's a very big thing. The classical courses, less so. You have other options to improvising, but for contemporary music, improvisation is quite important. Composing is taught at Crossroads for high-level students. But as you can imagine, improvisation, it encourages creativity. We are all natural improvisers. If I tell any of you right now that, okay, say something about the color green, you will have something which comes to your mind in the language of English. It says, okay, the tree that I'm looking at is green, or green is my son's favorite color, so on and so forth. So you're naturally an improviser in your own language. But what we are trying to do is we encourage our students to improvise in the language of music. Music theory, also taught at Crossroads, taught everywhere, well, hopefully everywhere where music is considered. So the thing is, music theory is thinking about music. A question for you: what came first, the music or the theory? I have a little diagram here of David Beckham kicking the ball with his signature bend, and on the right hand side a scientific breakdown of the angle where he's kicking and the bend and so forth. So what came first, the kick or the physics behind the kick?
The kick, maybe?
Yes, definitely the kick. Because I think David Beckham as a young lad would play football with his friends, and then he discovered, oh, if I kick the ball like this, the ball bends. Because I don't think David Beckham sat with a pen and paper and thought that if I kick the ball at this velocity with this part of my boot, creating this much of a rotation on the ball is going to bend 25 degrees. I don't think he thought about that at all. He just thought, okay, this seems good. And he practiced that kick maybe hundreds of thousands of times till he got it right. But there are scientists afterwards who saw, this is actually from a documentary that I saw, that they traced David Beckham's hips and his foot and his ankle and his boot, how he kicks it, so other people can replicate it. So music existed before the theory did, because what we are trying to do here is we are trying to understand music and we are trying to break down. So if you have a great piece of music, people go, oh my goodness, that piece of music was really good. What did that person do? And studying what that person did is music theory. It's used to gain a deeper understanding of how music works, and it's taught as a staple of most music courses, including the music courses at Crossroads. Okay, so it's basically to replicate ideas. Okay, this is a bit of a bonus lesson. Is Bollywood Indian music or Western music? The Bollywood music that you hear. This, by the way, this image has been created by AI. I think it's really creative. But could you tell me, does anyone have an answer for this? Bollywood, Indian music or Western music?
A bit of both.
A bit of both?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's right. So what I'd say Bollywood, definitely the language being spoken is Indian. That's Hindi. Hindi is an Indian language, definitely. How about the instrumentation? What instruments are being used? Mind you, Indian instruments are tabla, sitar, sarod, sarangi. Do you hear these instruments in Bollywood music, or do you hear drums, guitar, piano?
Oh, the language is Indian
Yes.
and the instruments are Western.
Yes, the Western, the music and the instrumentation, everything is Western. So Bollywood is actually Western music using some Indian music elements, because you often hear stuff like a sitar solo, you might hear a tanpura, you might hear tabla, but majority of Bollywood music is Western music. It's Indianized Western music, but the root of it is still Western music. Which brings us neatly to the question of, because this is the question that I've heard being asked when I was a kid, that, oh, but you need an Indian classical background to play music. And I would say, no, no, I play Western music. I like playing heavy metal and rock and blues. I don't need to learn Indian classical. So this is an old wives' tale. So I'm trying to bust this myth that you do not need to learn either Indian classical or Western classical to sing Western contemporary. In fact, you don't need to learn Indian classical to sing Bollywood. You need to have some kind of a training. You can use an Indian training as a base, or a Western training like a do re mi fa so as a base, which helps you with the technique. But let me try and draw an analogy. You read the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, up to Z. Then it's up to you whether you want to spell D or G dog, or whether you want to spell CAT cat. But it's just important that you learn your ABCs, whether you learn your ABCs in Indian or in Western, it doesn't matter, as long as you've got some kind of training to build the base. But the thing is, if someone wants to sing Taylor Swift songs, they do not need to learn, say, Western classical art forms like opera, or something like Indian classical to sing Taylor Swift. And also, everything in its place. If we are saying that if you want to sing Taylor Swift, you have to learn Indian classical music, either Hindustani or Carnatic. We are kind of we are denigrating the art form of Indian music. We are denigrating Carnatic or Hindustani music, because it has its own place, its own culture, and it should not be confused with any other art form like, say, contemporary Western music. A last part, because I've run over as usual. So some parts, some things about music careers. When I wanted to become a professional musician, in fact, very soon after I became a professional musician, I was asked this question: "Oh, you play music, great, but what do you actually do?" Music careers have changed since then. Musicians, believe it or not, a lot of musicians, they make a lot of money. A lot of musicians are rich. They are secure. And believe it or not, a lot of musicians are organized and are quite planned about the way they want to go about their finances and manage their life. Because there are so many music careers today. So you can go for when someone thinks musician, they think the very first one, performing or creative roles. This includes being an instrumentalist, or a singer, or a composer, or a DJ, so on and so forth. But there are other bits, like you can have technical or production roles, like you can be a sound engineer, a live sound technician, you can be a lights technician. There are bands who have lights people working for them, who sync the lights to the music, and those lights people, they need to have knowledge of the music. Like there was a band named Dream Theater, their music is very demanding. So the lights person had to know the complex time signatures to sync the lights up with the band. Stage manager, studio technician, so on and so forth. There are also bits like you can work for media and in the entertainment, education and therapy. So that's right up my alley. I'm a music therapist and a music educator, and also business and administrative roles. Very soon we'll have a workshop which will be done by one of my students, Dhwani, she's currently studying music business at New York University, so she can give a talk about studying music abroad, studying music in the US, and student life. So that's going to be the next bit. Last bit: please support your children by encouraging regular practice, praise any practice time given, and let them have time for music, because after this they'll have their mortgage or their rent to pay and taking care of other responsibilities. So so if you can offer them that balance, that'll be nice. And that's my talk. Thank you very much for coming today. And we have maybe time for one question, one or two maybe. So if you guys have questions, then this is your time to ask.
So my question to you would be, like, Neil wants to be in this field, and he's very particular about what his role in this field would be, and which is that of a performer. Now, I keep telling him that a lot of parts to it are there, like composition, like maybe music production, and somehow I'm not able to get him to see that point of view. And his end goal seems to be having a band playing at Wembley to a full crowd, kind of a thing.
Yep.
But what is the starting point, and how should he go about it?
Okay. It's not a bad ambition to have, because when I started my music career, I was the same as Neil. I wanted to play full crowds. I wanted to be the guitar player of, well, not Coldplay at that point, but I would have loved to have been a guitar player for a band like Coldplay, which is kind of playing at sold out crowds, and that's great. However, there are other stuff that you can do. Like, say, sometime in the point of my career, I wanted to be a composer for video games. So things might change, but if that's what he wants to do, let him do that. He can be a very successful performer, and he's definitely shown the tenacity and the discipline to be a good performer. So if that's what he wants to do, that's fine, but also to know the risks, and because it is also high stake.
Right.
It's also quite it's difficult, and especially as a guitar player, it's very difficult because there are lots of guitar players, lots of competition, and also doing an undergraduate degree in music performance is very demanding. So again, I would signpost you to the movie. Have you seen Whiplash?
No, I haven't. I should be, I think. Yeah, okay.
Yes. So Whiplash is a movie which I think it won several
You
Oscar
think
awards.
I can watch it with the boys? I think it had some age rating
You
stuff.
should. Just look at the age rating. I think it should be fine. It does have, well, it's got a few bits where there is some, what do you call it, like emotional strain more than anything else.
Got it.
There's bullying, and there's some language. However, I think it should be okay. I mean, should be okay for the boys. I mean, I would say it's okay. But there are lots of other roles. Like, I did not become a musician thinking I'd become a music therapist or a music educator, but here I am. So
It's a journey which would be evolving for him also, is what I'm gathering out of this. And even though he is starting off as wanting to be just a performer, things are going to change. Also, he's taken music as his one of his subjects in school in ninth and 10th.
great.
So I don't know. I believe it is demanding, but I think it is something that he really wanted to do. So I haven't discouraged him from that.
No, that's good. That's good. It'll be helpful, definitely helpful. And if he wants to study music at university level, then it's desirable. If you've studied music at school level, then you're going for college. It seems to be a natural progression. So yeah, I think, and he'll do well in music. You know, he'll do well in music, because if he took up something like chemistry or physics, you don't know whether he'll do well in music. You'll know
He
he'll do well.
he has taken physics and chemistry also.
Yeah, but music, he's guaranteed to do well.
Yeah.
And again, as mentioned, it's not like people who study physics and chemistry do better in life than people who study music, because if just see Taylor Swift's net worth. Okay, I'm not saying he's going to become the next Taylor Swift, but he just might. You never know. He could be Taylor Swift's guitar player, and he can do well. I think Taylor Swift gave a bonus of like $10 million to each of her musicians.
Wow. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, so that's a big bonus.
We- But why talk about Taylor Swift? Why not Steve Vai, or why not Gary Moore, or why not guitarists who were guitarists in themselves? Why not talk about Slash?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And all of those guitar players, they have, well, to be frank, they don't have as much net worth as Taylor Swift does, but they do. They do have big banks. And Slash, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, all of these guys, they are very, very well settled in life. Okay,
Yes.
they don't have to. Their grandchildren don't have to worry about.
I wish the parents wouldn't also have to worry about it.
That's right. Right. Great. So that's all the time I have for today. Thank you for coming, and I will send out the reading and the articles and the videos that I've used for today's talk. Okay. All right. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Take care. See you later.